We are, and we're a couple of hours into the project, and I just kind of wanted to show everyone how slow it goes. I'm sure there's a number of ways to do this, and I can think of a few, but this is how I prefer to do it, with that little sander right there. What the problem is, I'm not sure if I can get down close enough here, but see the gray wood here, and if you can't really tell in the pictures, but all of these stripes of silicone are proud, which means they're raised up above the grain of the wood, and then the grain is completely exposed. Like, this is nice and sanded flat, but this is completely exposed grain. A couple of things happen when that gets like that. For one, of course, the boards hang on to the water because it creates a valley in here. And for two, there's so much gray material on the top that is like a sponge and holds the water a lot longer. Teak is a really cool wood. It's very oily, and when it's sanded like this, the oil in the wood just sheds the water. So what you have to do in order to get it back to that beautiful teak color is to sand the whole thing smooth, which means to sand all the high spots. And you can see here it's nice and flat. And then over here I've just started to hit it, and maybe you can see how proud that grain is. If you look there, just years and years. Teak decks require a lot of maintenance, and it's a bugger. You know, a lot of people, if you don't have the money to hire somebody to do it, you got to do it yourself. And I've had my own health problems, which makes it very difficult to do, but at some point you just have to muscle through and do it. So this is an hour of sanding, and then these 5 boards here are basically done. And you can see here there's a little bit of grain still left in here. You got to keep sanding to get all that grain out. There's a couple of reasons for that. One, you want a nice uniform look. You know, when we get to the back here, we don't want any gray. And two, it will just absorb the moisture again and hang on to it. So you want a nice clean surface to be able to shed the water. The couple of tools that I'm using, obviously if you're working on a boat you have to vacuum up your mess. So you need a sander with a vacuum attachment. This is a semi-cheap sander that I bought years ago. I tried actually to use the geese. Here we go. See you guys. I tried to use a cheap version that I bought from Harbor Freight. I do not recommend those. They hop around too much. This one's actually been used so many times that I only use it for this kind of stuff, where it's really aggressive, and I use an aggressive grit sandpaper on it, so that we can smooth things out. I have a good sander for when we're doing, you know, final paint on this type of stuff, so that we can make it smooth. You can't have this sander's bearing is going out in it, but it's good enough for this kind of work. So anyway, that's the progress that I've made so far. Like I said, an hour of sanding this, but it feels good. It's going to look good when it's done, and probably have another hour on the other side of that. So 2 hours a panel. And I've got 2 more panels down there, so there's a total of 6 hours just of sanding, not to mention I had to take it apart, and then all of these damaged holes here are going to need to be repaired, as well as this. This is fiberglass actually that they wrapped the teak in, and what I'm going to do here is just use some of the silicone that I have and glue this back together. Well, I'll probably have to use glue, not silicone, but anyway, it should be fun. So there we go.